Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Brown from the Extra Points newsletter and throughout the D1 Ticker family of publications. Whether it's at Extra Points or Collegiate Sports Connect or anywhere in the giant network of publications that we have here, we talk a lot about the unpredictability of college athletics, unpredictability from the perspective of recruits as they navigate this process, unpredictability from the perspective of coaches or athletic directors, and even university presidents as they try to get a handle on what their enrollment will look like, their budgets, what happens on and off the field. And a major part of this entire business is helping every one of those entities navigate that risk, navigate that unpredictability. And I want to talk today a little bit about one potential tool that could potentially help multiple individuals within this ecosystem navigate that unpredictability. And I want to start by talking a little bit about what this world looks like from the perspective of the athlete. I'm joined here by Dillon Jones, basketball player here at Weber State. Dillon, thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes to chat with me.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Dillon, my understanding here is that your journey to Weber is a little bit less traditional. You are not somebody that grew up in Utah or had spent a whole lot of time around campus beforehand. I'm wondering if maybe you could tell us a little bit about your experience as a high school athlete and how you ended up going from South Carolina and from elsewhere in the country to Utah.
Yeah. So I was born and raised from Columbia, South Carolina. I've been there my whole life. And then I won a state championship in basketball my junior year. Then I took a leap of faith, you can say, to go to Sunrise Christian Academy, which is in Wichita, Kansas. And it was a great experience for me. I was able to learn a lot about myself. It was my first time really being away from home. So I had to, grow up fast, only being, 17, turning 18. And it was just an overall good experience. And obviously the experience was even crazier because I was a 2020 graduate, which is obviously the famous year of when COVID happened. And yeah, that made it much more interesting than I could have planned for. And Kansas was actually the first state that shut down due to COVID. So I was home from then, but it was a good experience for me. And just being there during the whole experience is kind of what led me to get to Weber State. Coach Ray at the time, who was the head coach, they were kind of going through a roster turnover, and recruiting and everything from their standpoint kind of was different as well. So they had to recruit players virtually and talk to players through Zoom meetings and things like that. And they found me. They just said that they were looking for players that was looking for opportunity, ready to play, and that's literally all I was asking for. Just an opportunity. So I took with it, ran with it, and it's been the best decision I've made leading up to this point.
Can you walk me through a little bit about your mindset? I'm imagining here, right? Like you just how you were saying, hey, this is my first time really being away from home. I'm in this unfamiliar environment. I'm in Kansas. I'm not in South Carolina, and the world's kind of falling apart. And I'm guessing that you had known a bunch of other people that had played high level basketball. I'm guessing you had some idea about what the recruiting process was like. What were you thinking about when you realized, okay, I guess I'm not going to do 5 on-campus visits? I don't have this information that I needed. Was there fear? Was there confusion, or did anybody step in to help with any of that?
Well, yeah. So I have an older brother that played basketball in Miami, Ohio, and graduated. So it was so easy to look up to him just to know like how to go about things, and basically just like having someone in my corner that literally has done what I've tried to do. So it made my decision a lot easier. He always jokes and say, if I had someone telling me the things I'm telling you, I would be much better. But so that was good. But also being able, because I never took an official visit, and that was, and I know that's rare to say, but
Yeah.
my opinion, like, and it goes to my mindset. I'm a very like futuristic thinker. Like I think I try to, if anything, find positives out of everything in life. And one thing I was thinking about positive was that, being that I wasn't able to take any visits, like I had to make my decision solely on basketball or like whatever I was looking for at the time, the fluff of how big the gym was or how good the jerseys look or stuff. Like I had to really X that out and really make a business like decision. And that's kind of how I took the mindset behind it, is just, being able to think about, how can this decision help me, in the future, and like not only with basketball, but just in life in general. And I had to look at everything from another point of view, which I found very interesting. Like I said, it wasn't about how big the gym was or how the jersey felt. It was about the real things in life. You like to say, just like I say, how I'm gonna go about life and how I'm gonna excel in basketball. So it helped me just make my decision much easier in that way, just from knowing what's more important.
I think what you're describing here is uncommon, I think, in a lot of ways. It's uncommon for somebody who's 17, 18, 19 to be disciplined enough to separate those sort of things, right? I remember when I was that age, I wasn't thinking about what was going to be best for me 20, 30 years down the line. I was looking at which campus had the prettier girls or what was the weather like or other things rather than earning potential or major fit or any of that. I think it's a blessing that you had an older brother who had gone through this experience and knew some of those things. The ability to really take a business-like approach is uncommon. I think it's a real blessing. I'm imagining here that now that you're on campus, you've been a part of this program, and you've got a chance to do everything now for a little while. You've been able to take that approach to other aspects of being a college athlete too, right? Maybe NIL or how you're approaching your training.
Correct.
So what were some of the NIL opportunities or some of the other brand or big picture connections that you were looking to make when you find yourself here on a campus that maybe you weren't expecting and a life process to get there that maybe you weren't expecting?
Well, when it came to those things, NIL wasn't like a thing yet. NIL just happened recently. But one thing I was looking at was just I want to say, how can I find people like me, but like, how could I find people around me that could help me be better or like hold me accountable and hold me to a certain standard to help me grow as a person? It's very cliche for people to say, I'm gonna make sure you get better, but like really they just letting you do what you want to do and you just living. What was important to me was having people around me that held me to the standard that I feel like I should be living at or playing at or whatever it was in my life. But then when the NIL space opened, I wanted to be around things that not only embodied like what I believe in, but like I want to help someone just as much as they was helping me. I didn't just want to be a part of a business that could just lean on someone else or just it's just like you're just a part of the business. You're just like another moving part. I want to be a cornerstone, a foundation of one. I want to just be a part of, like I said, someone that, like, of course, of the owner, but of the business that just shows that everything that I'm a part of or just something that I'm gonna be about. With me, it's never about a dollar sign.
Let's talk about that a little bit more because when I've talked to a lot of athletes and I've written about the NIL industry and the type of deals that are attractive to many college students.
Right.
Generally, certainly not exclusively, but generally, some of the more common ones tend to be things like restaurants, maybe cars, clothes, nutrition or athletic supplements. There's a lot of consumer goods, things that a college athlete would regularly use and want to talk about. And hey, you get free stuff. It's nice to get free stuff.
Right.
It is less common that I talk to somebody that's working with an insurance company, which tends to be, I say this with love in my heart, the opposite of something a typical 20-year-old is thinking about. It's not fun like Monster Energy drinks or basketball shoes are. So what was it about Degree that was interesting to you? How does this company align with those values and things that you were talking about?
I would just date it back to when I first met Wade. Like just the energy I got from him, he seemed real genuine. That's one thing I was looking for. I'm a very calculated thinker. Like my coaches always tell me, I'm a very calculated thinker, and sometimes I overthink things, sometimes I don't. But I really believed in his energy and what he was going about. I just felt like Wade had the right intentions about himself. And then we start getting into Degree and the things that it stood for, and what the business is trying to accomplish. And the first thing I thought was it was very unique, but I thought it was something that could be accomplished and that could be taken to a very high level. Just because of, like I said, the energy and the enthusiasm Wade brought about it. But just, I think it's a real need for something like this in the industry, in the country. So yeah, that's kind of what led me to that. Also, at the same time, I'm a professional sales major. So I know that, this can help me with that as well. I take school very seriously. So yeah, it was an abundance of all those things. But like I said, it started with Wade's energy. I felt like he was a very genuine guy. And I always went to the meeting. I said, I'm gonna just see, the type of person he is. I don't want to work with someone that, that isn't about all the right things,
Yeah.
So I was glad to come in contact with him and be around a guy like that.
I appreciate that, Dillon. Why don't we shift this to talk to Wade a little bit here? It's nice to have that personal character endorsement. Wade, I'm wondering if you could tell me at a very high level, what is it about your particular insurance product that makes this different, or at least relevant to the world of college athletics? This is, as I understand it, what you're building here, and what you're talking about is unique in the higher education space.
Yeah, we've developed something pretty new. So your college degree is the largest uninsured investment you'll ever make, right? It's the only place somebody you love counseled you to borrow 10 times your net worth, make one investment, and then just hope 5 years from now that it pays off. And we get away with that because it works really, really well and really, really consistently. But there's a generation of kids now who don't necessarily believe it, right? Who more and more are questioning the value of the college degree. And so we take a guarantee. We've created this guarantee. We sell it to colleges. They use it to recruit and retain students. That's the basics of what we do. We got connected with Dillon when we started thinking about college athletics and how this could fit, as NIL and other things were starting to, percolate and people were beginning to understand. One of the places that colleges have the most acute recruiting challenge is in sports, right? So it's not just filling out the entire freshman class, but filling out the roster, right? And making sure you're getting the right kids in school. And everybody can scholarship 100%, right? And then that's it. There's not much else we can do.
Yeah.
And so there's every school has the same set of coupons, if you will. And so you get to compete on lazy rivers and nice facilities and coaches that smile at you and all these wonderful things. But in the end, you look at a guy like Dillon, and Dillon is a very strategic thinker. And he looks and when you sit down and talk to him and really get to know him, it's great to see the way he thinks. But he's always about what's going to happen next. And what we do is provide a safety net for all students, right? So when we sell a product to a college, we guarantee the median exit salary. So as an example, it might be, 51 grand a year for engineers and 44 for business majors and 38 for English, or whatever it is at that school, right? Kids can change their major as often as they want. And when they graduate, they're going to send us their tax returns for 5 years. And if they don't earn what we promised, we will cut them a check for the difference. So Dillon's a guy who knows, you can blow out a knee. Lots of things can happen along that course when you're trying for, you're shooting for the stars, and that's great. But what's my safety net? What's the next tier down if that doesn't work for me or those around me? And he's the kind of guy who cares a lot about the other people around him as well. And so this is the kind of thing where we can introduce, we shrink the outcomes inequality across race and gender. There's lots of sort of byproducts of building that safety net. But that's where he and I really got to connect and say, okay, this is something we wanted to do together.
I can see how this could potentially be a very valuable or useful information to have, or useful safety net to have, not just for maybe men's and women's basketball players at a place like Weber, where you're getting your scholarship meeting 100% of your tuition, but for most of the other athletes at that institution, a high level competitive mid-major Division I institution, they're not getting 100% of their scholarship. If you're playing volleyball or soccer or something else at a place like Weber, you're probably on a partial. And now I'm imagining if you're able to guarantee potential earnings, this could potentially be something that you're considering as that business decision that Dillon was talking about, right?
When you can sit in a parent's living room and you're sitting there with an athlete and a parent, and they row, they wrestle, they fence, they play lacrosse, whatever it is. And you're able to say, look, it was the NCAA's own ads, right, that inspired some of this, right? Like most of these athletes will go pro in something other than sports, right? When they leave here, not only are they going to get half the tuition paid along the way or whatever it is, but we can guarantee $250,000 when they finish in engineering, or 210 grand when they finish in business, or whatever it is, because it's across that 5 years.
Right.
You might be sitting in a family where the household income is less than that, right? This is something that says, it's pretty compelling offering to say go, and this isn't what you're going to earn. This is that you can't earn less than that. That's your safety net. That's the floor now for you. You can lock in a path that's really incredible, right, for these kids, because we can take the intangible benefits of college, the better education, better opportunity, better salaries, all those things it unlocks, and make it really tangible. There's now a pot of gold on the other side of the finish line. What we got to do is stick it out and finish. Because what people don't talk about, not among athletes, not among the student body in general, 40% of new college students in America are going to drop out and they're not going to finish. Right.
Be in a potentially worse position than they would have been had they never enrolled in the first place, because now they have debt.
Yeah, they get debt, but no degree. So it's those that we need to see all the way through. Right. And in sports, you get new elements, right? Whether it's the transfer portal and, hey, you have an income guarantee when you stay versus over there you don't. It's a new competitive dynamic, right? At a very low cost, right? So those are the sorts of things where we think it begins to play. And I sat down with Debbie Corum, who was, longtime athletic director, and had a number of these conversations as well. And she said, well, I should let her speak, but she said, look, this is something that athletic directors are going to care a lot about. Right?
And I'm glad you queued that up for me here, Debbie. I'm glad that you're part of this conversation too. We've had a chance here to talk a little bit about what this might potentially mean from an athlete's perspective as they're navigating their particular choice. We can see how this might be something that could be a tool or helpful from a coach's perspective as they're having to fill out competitive rosters and do their recruiting. I'm wondering, what would this mean for an athletic director or potentially a university president as they're trying to navigate enrollment goals or obligations greater than just how do I get the best shooting guard that I possibly can? What does this look like from your perspective?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I was actually sitting in a president's cabinet meeting when we heard this presentation, and at the same time, it was when NIL was beginning, and everybody was trying to figure out how this was going to impact in the transfer portal. We were in the early stages of the transfer portal, and so my brain was thinking immediately went to, is this a tool for athletic administrators and universities to retain athletes to their school? And my whole thing is NIL has been wonderful. The transfer portal has been wonderful as far as providing a lot of opportunities for student athletes. But as an athletic administrator or a university administrator, I'm sitting there going, how do we keep these people at our school and not wanting to leave and go to other schools? And I just saw it as a possible tool that could change that for us. And I started talking to some athletes and found out that my first instinct, my intuition was correct.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because you have touched on something that I have heard in my own reporting as increasingly a significant concern among coaches and ADs, especially those at the low and mid-major level. This idea of, if I have athletes who are on track to graduate, who are having a positive experience, who are contributors on their team and have great relationships with their coaches, but if somebody comes along and says, I've got an NIL check, well, I'm not casting dispersions on this decision whatsoever. Somebody might very rationally decide it's in my best interest to be able to collect that money. And a smaller institution that doesn't have access to a gigantic donor collective, or maybe doesn't have Amazon in their backyard or some gigantic corporate entity willing to underwrite it, this could potentially be something that maybe you're not going to outbid an oil baron, but could present something tangible for them to consider. Do I have this calculus correct?
No, that's correct, Matt. I can't tell you. I was at an institution, limited resource institution, and I once the transfer portal started, and I can't tell you the number of athletes that would come in and sit at my desk, and they were looking for reasons to stay at our institution because they really liked our school. And I always say coaches are supposed to recruit you out of your position because coaches are supposed to get better and better recruits every year, right? So when you're a junior or senior, it's very possible that you're losing your starting position, that you had as a freshman and sophomore because the coach did a great job of recruiting better athletes in. So I would sit there with athletes at my desk saying, I'm a senior, I'm a junior, and I've lost my starting position, but I really don't want to leave this school. And can you talk to me? Can you give me something that helps me stay at this school? And surprisingly, sometimes I need to tell mom and dad something. Sometimes it's the parents that are saying, you need to leave so you can go play someplace. And so I started looking at this and just kind of throwing out to some of these athletes that were sitting across from my desk and said, hey, if you had an insurance for your degree, would that be something that would keep you from, to stay here at our institution and graduate here and not transfer? And they were saying, yes, yes, I would do that. Or yes, I could call my dad and tell him that I'm going to get that. And he's not going to want me to transfer to Weber State, so I can play there. So that's why I believe that this, it's probably not for everyone. Sure. But I think it's a tool that is worthy of athletic administrators to look at, to see if it's something that helps them with retention at their institution.
I tell people all the time, look, if I don't know what other expense you could have that's going to be, $1 to $3 grand one time. It's going to tell a kid you're going to make 250 grand, or you're going to make 200 grand, or you're like, give you some guarantee. And that a guarantee works. That word is powerful. That concept is powerful. If you know what you're going to make, you can start a family, buy a house, do all the things you want to do to launch your life, which is what college is supposed to help you do, right? And a guarantee, it's like free. Free is a powerful word. If you look at app downloads, the difference between free and those that are a penny, right? Like there's a whole bunch more that are free. That guarantee of an outcome, you take away all the wondering of if it's going to work. And this is the least confident generation in American history, right? They wonder if it's going to work.
I mean, I'm older in that generation, and I'm going to be honest, I have some of those same concerns. And Dillon, to kind of bring this back here full circle, I'm not trying to get you in trouble or anything, but you talked about how you wanted to take a business-like approach. You're trying to figure out what best aligns in your long-term interests. I have to assume that what will best prepare you financially after basketball, or with basketball, has to be one of those concerns, right? I imagine if a coach or somebody was able to provide you with some similar information, this is something that you would have considered during your recruiting process, right?
Yes, for sure. I told Wade one time, everyone always wants to talk about the positive, especially during recruiting and stuff. Everyone always wants to talk about how good we are and, how good of players we've had and all of this, but they never want to bring up, the negatives, or because negatives are very realistic, especially in sports. I mean, injuries are, literally you can step on the court and change your life that fast just off an injury, or, something small, or just anything that could happen. So, yes, like you said, having something like that would definitely change it. It would have changed the trajectory of where I would have went to school for sure. It would have definitely had a different weight on the school that I picked for sure.
You bring up an important point, I think, if we're going to bring this entire thing full circle, because we're talking about insurance, whether that's insurance for your future academic earnings, or for your house, or for your car, or for anything else. The entire business model for this product is to mitigate risks and plan for not just the best case scenario, but the worst case scenario. And that's something that should be talked about absolutely in recruiting too. Hey, what happens if I get here and my ACL turns into paper mache? What happens if you recruit a 5-star, in the next class here? I need to talk about that so we can weigh our options. And that's what this looks like here too. What happens if you graduate and there's Lehman Brothers Part 2 and the hiring market changes, which is the thing that, as somebody that graduated from college in 2009, can tell you happens sometimes. So I whether it's this specifically, or this mindset approaching to other parts of college athletics or your own finances, it makes a lot of sense. And degrees insurance here, and what they're trying to do with insuring future earnings against the college degree, does appear to be something that may have merit for an individual athlete, may have merit for a family, may have merit for an athletic department, and then potentially, we didn't even really talk about this all that much, a university in general, who may have enrollment goals or student recruitment goals or issues independent of just the vein of college athletics, which falls a little bit outside the scope of this particular video, but certainly an important use case. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for taking some time here to chat with me. I think this will help our audience better understand exactly what this is about, why it's important, and why it may be relevant to them depending on where they are in the college athletics ecosystem that they're watching from. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.